Dear Minister Huang, dear Vice Minister Wang, dear friends, thank you very much for welcoming me to discuss a key topic for the future of growth. Talking about open economy in the current world is all about understanding we have entered in a new era of globalization. After the renewed commitment of President Xi this morning, favoring opening and reforms, I really hope such a forum can help outline pragmatic solutions and ideas. Today, everywhere you look, the spirit of cooperation is put at risk by the vicious circle of protectionism, economic slowdown, and international distrust. But the growing fragmentation of the international community is not a coincidence. It is both the sign and the consequence of global imbalances that are challenging growth and stability as never before. Over the last decade, global economy has been facing an historic transformation. First of all, we shifted from a Western economy to a multipolar growth. On the one hand, the major drivers of international prosperity have experienced a gradual decline. European shares in global economy have decreased from 30% in 2006 to less than 20% 10 years later, while the US are rejecting many commercial treaties such as the TPP. On the other hand, emerging countries, and China in particular, have played a growing role in international economy. Since the reforms, Chinese part in global GDP has increased from 2% in 1978 to more than 15% today. But this transformation has also generated imbalances. Today, inequalities are spreading at ever a faster pace, both locally and globally. This is true in developed countries like Great Britain, where almost 20% of people are living in relative poverty. It's also true in emerging countries. Just look at Brazil, where there is an obvious link between the election of populist Bolsonaro and the soaring misery in towns like Rio. In developed and developing countries, globalization has become a political scapegoat as we fail to fairly distribute the fruits of opening up and prosperity. Today, it has become necessary to set up new patterns of cooperation in global trade and international investment. Let me insist on a simple concept: reform. People are waiting for evidence that globalization can expand on a fair, stable, and sustainable basis. But what we need the most is giving guarantees of that. Reforming economy must be the key to restore confidence. First, at the national level, by boosting employment, financing long-term projects, and protecting people against financial instability. Europe and China have opened the way of a stronger banking regulation to limit and address economic risk. Second, the spirit of reforms must lead to concrete changes in international institutions. The IMF must give more space to emerging countries. Today, Russia and India have each less than 3% of voting rights against almost 20% for the US. The WTO should also be reformed towards stronger dialogue, regulation, and supervision to limit the risk of trade war as witnessed today. But reform is just a first step. We also need to build new frames of cooperation. Today, the monetary difficulties faced by emerging countries is partly due to the lack of monetary and economic coordination. In less than a year, the currency of Turkey and Argentina decreased by more than 40%, especially after the change of US rate policy. Saving globalization requires more dialogue and more mutual assistance. I really think we need to create a new mechanism of financial and monetary stability by facilitating cooperation between the major central banks of China, US, and Europe. This new G3 will take into account the specifics of foreign economies to avoid any cross-border destabilization. But reshaping global economy is also about collective initiatives. I do believe we have entered a new phase of globalization that I would call the age of partnerships. The 20th century has been the age of trade, with an unprecedented rise of commercial exchanges. The beginning of the 21st century has been the age of investment, with the dramatic increase of foreign direct investment. Just in China, outbound investment reached almost $150 billion in 2015. Today, the age of partnership should be the best response to the risk of isolation and protectionism. It means encouraging foreign capitals and expertise in national companies to help in internationalization. It means betting on complementarity between states and continents. It also means being aware of sovereignty and security issues while investing abroad. In a time of slowdown, collective impetus is needed more than ever. We need concrete hope and successes. I do believe the Belt and Road Initiative, launched in 2013 in Kazakhstan by President Xi Jinping, could be a model of cooperative projects focused on shared development. By gathering more than 60 countries and targeting around $900 billion of investment in infrastructures, the approach combined both inclusiveness and economic stimulation. Such an initiative could lead other powers like Europe and the US to launch similar projects, similar diplomacy projects in regional areas. Europe is well positioned to increase partnerships with the African continent, while the US could build economic bridges with Latin America. In a multipolar world, I am convinced that this approach will be the most adapted and constructive to create strong and sustainable poles of prosperity in an open global system. Thank you very much.